All across the Western world, the topic of immigration is getting so much media attention, and for some reason, no one seems to be asking the question why that is. It just seems to have entered popular culture a couple of years ago and has gotten consistently more aggressive, and now it could just be coincidence that for some reason this has picked up steam in the last couple of years and has just entered the cultural zeitgeist, because it's definitely not because there's so many more brown people in Western Europe that there were 20 years ago. There's a couple more, but not that many more, and so you have to ask yourself, maybe, just maybe, is there something else at play? You're here at the Kingsguard Project, and today we're talking about the great immigration conspiracy. So first we have to go back to the great migrant crisis that happened a couple of years ago. This is really when it entered the cultural zeitgeist that boat people were, I call them boat people, tongue-in-cheek, you know what I mean, you know who I'm on about. The truth is, refugees have been coming into Western Europe for decades now. It's nothing new. However, the news coverage and the internet coverage of this phenomenon has absolutely exploded within the last 5 years. And you will not find a shortage of politicians who have looked at this and tried to utilize it to force their agenda through. I'm looking at you, Nigel. But it's not just him, it's populist leaders across the West. And I just want to make sure you people understand, I am not a lefty. So if right now you're thinking, well, he's just some socialist and he's brown, and because he's brown and that's why he doesn't. No, mate, I actually am in support of borders, and I think that we need to have smart immigration all across Western Europe. However, I have just realized that there's more powerful things at play here. If you watch the content consistently, and if you're a believing Christian, you start to see patterns emerge. The same kind of patterns that emerged about 80 years ago when a certain moustached man from my home country decided, you know what, I want Europe, and I want it for me and my people. And this idea, look, let me just flash a quote from this man on the screen right now. Does this not sound eerily similar to the talking points of the modern populist right? Whether that's here in the UK with Reform UK, or the AFD in Germany, or whoever you want across Western Europe. These nationalist talking points, this idea that the native population is under threat and under attack. This, my friends, is a spiritual game. See, Mr. Moustache Man had come up with this theorem of exactly why race and nationality are so important to a nation state. He thought that it was a spiritual, collective blood that binds the people of a certain nation together, and that under providence, i.e. some fake god that he believed in, the spirit and blood of those nations would hold them together and make them strong and pure. And these same spiritual talking points have been underneath of all populist media and right-wing politician talk for the last couple of years. And don't get me wrong, the people on the left who are using immigration in the opposite way, and they say, open borders, freedom for all, yay! They have a different spiritual problem going on, and I'm going to be talking about communism and its spiritual roots at another date. But back to immigration, you will see people combine two different elements together consistently and act like they are the same thing. You will have talking heads on the right sit down for interviews and say, within 50 years, the white native population will be a minority and Islam will be a majority religion. That combination of trying to mix together nationality, race, and faith into one singular entity is the great immigration conspiracy. Because see, there's actually nothing wrong with people of a different racial group, which is a made-up concept anyway, moving from one country to another. The problem is when those people come into a different nation state, if they're ideologically and spiritually opposed to the people who live there. So, England, Christian country, Christian nation, we love Jesus, that's who we are. And I know there's a bunch of people who are going to see this like, no, we're secular. No, we're not. We're not secular. We have a state church, right? We have a state religion. More than 49% of the country still identifies as Christians, which is far more than what identifies as non-religious, so I don't want to hear any of that. Shut it. And what you have is large-scale immigration from countries like India, Pakistan, the Middle East, Northern Africa, and what is the dominant religion in those places? Islam. So what you have is a conspiratorial spiritual problem where it's not actually about how many brown people or how many Asian people, whatever, come into your country. It's about the spiritual replacement and attack against the nation. And a nation is not spiritually united by race or blood or anything like that. They are spiritually united by faith. The faith is what unites them, the faith is what guides them, and the faith dictates what laws, rules, regulations they set. And you can look all across the world and you will see the laws and legislation of those lands reflect the majority faith of that land. And so if you're going to be involved in this political sphere and you start seeing this rampant, aggressive tone towards immigration, remember that it's not about people coming on boats or coming on planes or even the numbers or how much money is being spent, because it's not that much, like on asylum seekers and things like that. It's truly about the spiritual battle at play. And people feel threatened because spiritually they feel under attack by people coming from the outside who do not share their faith, do not share their values, do not believe in Jesus Christ, and therefore they are seen as a threat. However, because most people can't articulate this, they just see brown person doesn't speak English, therefore brown person bad. And of course, there are socio-political elements at play when it comes to immigration, but that's not what this particular video is all about. And there is also a powerful elite at play behind this sort of open border policy, which does want mass migration from different faith backgrounds because it causes disjointedness within a given nation. And when a nation is divided in their faith, when you have interfaith conflict, then the powerful elite have created a chaotic environment in which they can seize more power. And don't get it twisted, I'm not some crazy conspiracy nut, but there are absolutely spiritual networks of satanic nature that are at work and are running in extremely powerful and influential circles who have got a great agenda for this nation, for Western Europe, and eventually for the whole world. And this rampant aggressive fight for immigration in mass droves and the angry response of the majority people to oppose it and to blame everything on someone else's nationhood instead of their faith is part of their plan. So make sure you're not deceived. Keep your eyes wide open and wait for Jesus Christ to return. But in the meantime, get actively involved in politics. Bring Jesus back into the center of UK politics and bring him back into the center of the politics of the country you're in. If you're in the US, if you're in France, if you're in Germany listening to this, Jesus needs to be at the center of all political positions. Nation states need to acknowledge Jesus Christ. And laws around immigration and legislation around other topics need to be informed by a biblical worldview. They cannot be made up because the general population is either super angry and they don't want browns, or they can't be created by some satanic populist elite who just want chaos within society so that they can obtain more power for themselves. These legislations on immigration need to be based in biblical Christianity.